Oh, without a doubt, when I first got into the industry, no one knew of a vac truck. All the potholing was by hand. There were times back in the day, I remember, you'd spend days just hand digging potholes, getting ready for a directional bore.
The problem with hand digging is number one, it's strenuous on the body. We've got cold months coming up, which is obviously going to lead to more tears and muscle aches and pains. This is going to kind of basically eliminate that. So if we can eliminate that and basically kind of eliminate the chances of someone getting injured, that alone is a huge thing with using the vac truck. It also, efficiency and time-wise. You're talking about hand digging on a utility that could be 5 foot deep, could be 6 foot deep, we don't know. However, you have the vac truck, you're able to get down at 6 feet deep really, really fast. If you're to dig that by hand, you're talking maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours digging by hand, depending on what kind of spoil we're coming up against. And with that being said, we've also just recently bought a new vac truck for the company use, just because of the fact that we are utilizing them a lot more than we have in the past.
Hydro excavation will be continue to be used more in the future. A lot of the old timers that thought a shovel was the way to go. They're understanding now the safety procedure of a hydro-vac, and that a hydro-vac is actually more productive than shovel digging, because even with a shovel, you can still damage utilities, you can still run into stuff you don't know that's in the ground. So it's going to continue to be used wider and wider, throughout North America.
Even digging with a shovel out in their front yard. I've went out to places in hydro-vac looking for water lines, and believe it or not, they'd be actually 6 inches. How they got to freeze in the winter. Gas lines especially. I've seen gas lines exposed off the skim of the top of the grass. So people need to be aware of what's out there. Power lines, all that. You run a shovel into a power line, that's it.
This is exactly why you can't just come to the top of the marks crossways and jump on top of the shovel. Because if he would have done that when he came in there, he'd have cut however many are you seeing now, 4 or 5, 6? He'd have chopped them all right in half. If he'd have taken both feet and jumped on that shovel with his weight, he'd have cut every one of them.
Well, hand digging, despite what people say, is a very tricky, it's not as easy as everybody thinks that you grab a shovel and that you can dig. We try to educate our people from a contract side that when you hand dig, to simply stick a shovel on top of a paint mark and jump on it with both feet and go into the ground, you're asking for a damage to happen. And I distinctly remember a time where I looked at a new employee. I happened to be on a job check. He shows up on site. He's a new employee to us. He's with this foreman for the first time. My comment to him was, here's Tom, this is the foreman on site, this is who you'll be working with. He's going to show you how to hand dig. I distinctly remember the comment out of that new employee's mouth that said, I know what a shovel is, I can dig. I said, I understand that, but you don't know how to dig properly.
Vacuum excavation, it's of the utmost importance, especially here in North America. We've got so many backhoe strikes and shovel strikes and all this damage done to underground utilities and lives lost because of that. It's senseless, right? VacX technology is here, let's use it. It's important, it's extremely efficient, does very, very well, especially with dry suction excavation. Let's keep saving lives and find our utilities safely.
So the one guy's got the wash wand, which is cutting the dirt and liquefying it. The other guy with the orange pole has the vacuum hose on it, so he kind of holds it up off the ground a little bit, so it allows airflow to suck up the water and dirt as they're digging down. The water pressure is about probably 1,500 to 2,000 psi. That is adjustable. And then the vacuum, they're pulling about 6,200 CFM of vacuum, which is 28 to 29 inches of mercury. They have the gloves on for that are good up to 14,000 volts if should there be an electrical line down there that is exposed. So it protects them. Same with the boots. They're all dielectric boots that they're wearing. And of course the all PPE, hard hat, safety shields, so on and so forth. So this is all non-destructive, so we're not going to damage any underground utilities while digging and vacuuming. Or if you're using an excavator or even a shovel, there's always that potential where you could hit the utilities underground, and somebody could either die or get hurt or have an explosion if there's a gas line.
I got a little bit further to go. Working for Badger full-time. We get a lot of change of scenery. We have a lot of different job locations and different job descriptions. We deal with basically all utilities, digging up gas main, electrical, spotting utilities for the gas companies with directional boring so they don't hit anything underground. So we're out here today for MPL, exposing a high pressure gas main to make sure that there's no cross connections before they dig with their machine. Just so we know that they won't inflict any damage to the pipe or rip out a cross connection and cause a lot more damage. So we expose it for them so they can get eyes on it before they start digging. So with the high pressure being at 300 PSI, if the pipe was to get hit, there could be a blowout from the pipe that would cause a lot of physical damage to the equipment and or the operators and laborers around it. It helps everybody as far as cost effectiveness with damage to utilities without things being spotted. Well, I can see utility companies using the trucks more as long as they have the funds to use the trucks. Safety-wise for their guys alone is a good selling point.
Day to day here is, of course, dispatch, take care of our customers. Number one priority is safety, to make sure we're keeping our guys safe, make sure we're keeping our clients safe, and then the communities around us. And of course, always looking out for the environment. Most of the stuff here in the central Indiana area is general contracting, which is like, people little building buildings, putting in sewer, putting in, gas, fiber, whatever. Just general construction sites, and they hire us to come in and locate utilities so they can continue with their construction projects safely, so we don't hurt any of the infrasource. A lot of times, the true challenges are on what we find in the hole that nobody knew was there. A lot of times they'll bring us in and we're supposed to spot a gas line. We'll open it up and we'll find an abandoned gas line. We'll find a bore that was cut off early for some reason. They'll find the actual utility we're looking for. There may be a telecom line going through there. There may be a water service going through there. It's amazing on day to day what we find that it's unexpected. We have a lot of contractors here in town that have made it now mandatory that every utility they cross will be hydro-excavated. They do that in order to prevent a strike, to make sure they have a good identification of what is there and to see what they don't know, what the unknowns are. Like I said, it's a lot more people are taking it hand to hand in their daily construction work, which in turn is safety, on their part. We're there to help them safety, or any other hydro-vac company is there to help them safety-wise. It's a good thing for all communities.
And that's the beauty of non-invasive, of hydro-excavation. We don't have teeth on buckets that are going to ding or bend or dent the pipe or affect the coating. So that's the big difference. Also with communication or fiber optic cables, you've seen fiber optic cables and they're filled with thousands and thousands of fiber optic runs. If those get cut by a mechanical type of excavator, you're going to have a hard time splicing all those things together. So it's a big deal. There's less risk with hydro excavation.
One of the biggest positives about us manufacturing our own units is that we take feedback from the field. They get feedback from our operators that run the units on a daily basis. We take that stuff and we push it up to our engineering department, and they take it and they sit down, they have roundtable discussions on what we can do to improve our units in order to be safer, to be more productive, and make sure we're taking care of our customers. A lot of things have changed over the years since I've been at Badger, and just the environmental as whole with our own environmental department now in Badger, but just environmental in the communities as whole. Soil transfer locations or facilities will be a way in the future to help hydro-vac. That way we can make sure we're controlling the spoils in order to make sure we're doing the right thing for the environment and recycle what we're using instead of just taking them to landfills. This way the material can be reused. It will be a big plus for hydro-vac in the future.
Well, my name is Brandon Vandergast. We're here at IQ 2019. We're here debuting our Dyno Series equipment, dry suction excavators. Ox specializes in dry suction excavation technology. Namely, it's been developed in Europe, and we've brought it over here to North America to debut here and advance the market. So this here is our city dyno. It's a very small, compact unit, but it doesn't sacrifice any power being small and compact. It's a 18,000 CFM vac unit. We use high pressure air to excavate the soil, and obviously the vacuum to back it up. Here in North America, we're starting to find in a lot of markets is that we're getting a lot of slurry waste from these hydro-vacs, right? So it's getting very difficult to get rid of, and you can't do anything with it. So the purpose of these units here is to excavate it dry so you can reuse your material and not use all this water. We're just running out of fresh water, and why keep using it to dig holes? Let's use air to dig holes instead. There's hardly any restrictions for it, and we can just reuse what you take out, man. So in North America here, we haven't really developed dry suction excavation technology all that well. So we look to other markets, and the European market has developed excellent technology for dry vacuum excavation, and it's presented here at IQ 2019. We've done case studies with Ox proving that dry suction excavation is a very viable option and a very good option for a lot of hydro-vac saturated markets where you have trouble with slurry and all those types of things. And I mean, there's a big worry about clays and harder soils and things like that. And we've got case studies done on those as well, and we've proven that clay is not an issue with these trucks. Right? We can dig through it just fine with excellent numbers. No, if anything, underground facilities are now safer because of air excavation. Because for the water system, like a hydro-vac system, right, water would rather go through an object than around it, whereas air would rather go around an object than through it. Right? So it's a lot safer for your utility plants, especially gas lines, hydro plants, power plants, electrical lines underground.
As you guys saw down there, we've got a giant power source that's going over here to the O'Hare Airport. And you know, those guys have got to treat that thing with extra care. I mean, that's, you know, a big power source, but we try and treat even the smaller ones that same way by giving them the same care, because electric isn't anything to mess with. It's extremely dangerous. So you want to treat all those utilities the same way. This in particular, we're taking our extra care with that one because obviously we know it's feeding the O'Hare Airport and I believe half the town of Bensonville. So, you know, you've really got to be careful with it. The two safest ways for the most part is that vac truck and hand digging. Obviously, any kind of machinery, you know, it doesn't have the feel that you do with hand digging, and especially the vac truck. And even with the vac truck, it's got a lot of pressure of water that's coming out to kind of cut that hole as it's sucking it out the same way. So even with that vac truck, you've really got to watch that too. But as far as digging around utilities and stuff like that, especially with the utilities and the ground becoming less and less, you know, it's getting scarce because there's a lot of things in the ground. So To combat that, it seems to me like people are just going deeper and deeper now, so it's making it even harder now to hand dig. So the vac trucks really help out because it saves a whole lot of time, and like you said, it is safer. It's a lot safer than obviously using any kind of machine.
The difference, so basically the difference is in technology. So if we got any North American developed dry vacuum excavator is, it's a generally low CFM. It's got a PD system on it, an air lance, right? We got the same technology there as far as the air lance goes. The difference is our vac technology. Here we have 18,000 CFM on a single axle vac unit. If you look over at our tandem unit, it's a 24,000 CFM unit. So we have extremely high conveyance, and that's what you need to move material effectively. You don't need low CFM. So we have a turbine system rather than a PD system, right, or a blower. Yeah, this city dyno here, we brought this in to North America because it's a very compact unit, right? It's a single axle, it's an excellent drivability, so it's great in urban areas, especially because urban areas, there's nowhere to dump hydro-vac slurry. So we have a very compact unit. You can dump into bags. You got a couple of sacks that sit on the back of the truck. You dump into the bags, and you can pick them up with a cherry picker, put them wherever you need them, keep your job site clean, tidy, neat, and your fill stays on site so you can reuse it. Myself being an operator in this industry for over a decade now, vacuum excavation is extremely important to all construction projects. You got underground plants everywhere. You got gas lines, you got your electrical lines, you got everything underground now. A lot more stuff's going underground. You need to protect that. Yeah, in my decade in the vacuum excavation industry, I've run both hydro-vacs and these, most recently these suction excavators, these dry suction excavators. The experiences I've had with hydro-vacs, especially in urban areas or very dense areas where you have a very hard time getting rid of slurries and stuff like that, our lead times were between 3 and 4 hours to get rid of our material. And we weren't going back to site to continue to dig. So we were 1 load days, and that's not efficient at all. Right? So the customers paid for 3 or 4 hours on site, plus 4 hours of lead time, dump time, getting water, all that kind of stuff. We flip over to these machines here, dry suction excavators, I can spend 10 hours on site and not even leave, right? Just full production all the time.
Yeah, we've seen a big uptick in vacuuming. The reason being is that, again, it's just a safer alternative. It's more efficient, it's faster, and with that being said, we've also just recently bought a new vac truck for the company use, just because of the fact that we are utilizing them a lot more than we have in the past.
It's a lot of education. So we're gonna drill in a 4-inch gas main. So we're gonna punch the rods through, and the drillers can fish the rods in and out through the utilities, as long as we got everything spotted. The problem comes about, nobody really thinks about when they're gonna pull the reamer head back. Now, when we get to the intersections, I just dealt with one a month ago. 20-inch high pressure main, 6-inch high pressure main, 8-inch standard pressure main, 2-inch standard pressure main, all ran down this road between the boulevards and in the street. And when I got on site, the driller says, well, I'm gonna do this, and we'll see if we can snake through like this, and I'll probably have to set up right here, and I don't know if we'll maybe have to set up twice. And I said, look, number one, I don't want you within 2 feet of that 20-inch high pressure main. Number two, I said, let's just stop and think about this. Are we better off to open cut this road, half the road at a time, get our traffic in place, and hydro-vac it, instead of even trying to drill, instead of even taking the chance? That is exactly what we did. We cut the blacktop. We brought our big hydro-vac out there. We hydro-vac the trench. So you got to weigh out, it's a very populated area. And when I explained to the crews, they said, well, that'll take this much extra time and we'll have to do this. And I said, look around you. This is all residential. We get into any one of these mains and we cause an explosion, what's going to happen? Can you sleep with yourself at night? Because I can't. And as quality assurance, I can't let you do this. So we're going to take the safest route, whether it takes us more time or not. We're going to back this trench open and not even take that chance.
Those vacuum excavator trucks and wagons are so versatile, and they cut down your labor hours, they increase production, and because the real estate is running out where you want to put utilities, so they're on top of each other and they're within tolerance zones. And that vac truck, there's sometimes where you might be set up for a proposed directional bore, but because of you don't want to hit another utility or get tangled up, you have to do potholes or a slot trench. Instead of hand digging, it's safer. Even hand digging, if you were to put a shovel into a direct buried power line, people can get hurt. The vac truck saves on damages, it increases production. We have the vac truck in our fleet. Our directional bore crews all have vac wagons. You know, a requirement of electric conduit is all utilities are sited. No blind bores, none at all.
Yeah, safety is the biggest part of hydro-vac. Is what hydro-vac provides to the customer or to the consumer, anybody. And like I said, this goes all the way from residential to your large owner facilities that hydro-vacs work for. It's all about safety. It's all about identifying the actual depth of the utility and exposing it for them. And like in a bore situation, say a gas line has been bored in, it can start at a 5-foot level. It can go to a 6-foot. It can go to a 13. It all depends on what they did during that bore path. A lot of times we'll expose it at 10-foot increments. That way they know the bore line, they know the bore height. That way they can make educated decisions on what to do safely to continue the project.
So you're always out there, trying to put the puzzle together and make your job easier. If you see a transformer over here or a gas riser coming up over here, and try to determine the line or a row of fire hydrants. If it's going to make your job easier, if you can stand here and put 2 or 3 in a row, then it's going to be in here in this area, or and follow the flags as well. The more you can put the puzzle together to try to see a visual of underground, even though you're above ground, that makes it that much easier. All our new hires come in, and we've just started a new program called the Badger University. They're going to be bringing in operators from around the nation, and they'll run them through a program. But once they're done, they'll go to their areas where they're from, and they'll be placed with mentors. And they're ran through a training program. And in our training program, there's just lists of everything that they need to be proficient in before they're allowed to be signed off and sent out in a unit by themselves. It's a lot of responsibility to run one of these, from just driving down the road, but the construction sites you run into, and everything that could happen or go wrong.
Right now, we hire CDL operators. They have experience usually driving trucks. Not all of them, but a majority of them are CDL operators. So we're getting some experienced drivers in. Some of them may be previous hydro-vac operators from other company. Some have been with Badger, left, and come back. So we have a variety of people that come in. We do have turnover. We're working to address that, and that's one of the reasons why we put together Badger University, to get them in, get them proud to be a Badger employee before they get out in the field, make sure they're willing to do this type of work. There is turnover, but we're addressing it on multiple fronts. But it's getting somebody that understands when we first get them in that they're going to be out in the field, they're going to be cold, they're going to be hot, they're going to be wet, they're going to get mud splashed on them. So we're also working with our recruiting team to make sure they explain that well before they actually get hired. But it's fun. That's one of the things, you talk to any of our operators that have been here, they enjoy the work they do. They're outside, they're interacting with clients, they're assessing hazards and eliminating them. It takes a special person to do all that, and we're trying to make sure we set them up for success when we bring them in.
So another excellent use for these dry suction excavators is because we're using high-powered air, the arborist industry, so tree protection is a huge thing. So with a normal hydro-ex, using the high-power water, you generally have to turn it down to about 500 psi to be acceptable to dig around tree roots or inside of tree protection zones. With these dry suction excavators, since we're using air, we can dig at full capacity all the time around roots with doing 0 damage to the roots, which is a massive benefit for the trees and all that. And it also gives you the ability to reuse the material that you've excavated around the roots, right? Which gives it the exact same soil that it was in before, back into the same excavation, which is much better for the tree. Back home in Canada, in the Toronto area, Oakville, Burlington area, there's very strict rules on tree protection. If you want to do any sort of work around a tree, we have what's called a tree protection zone set up around the tree where you're not allowed to store any material, park any equipment, or do any sort of excavation inside that zone. The only excavation allowed is vacuum excavation. And in particular, we're starting to see a big shift towards only these units, these dry suction excavators being allowed inside tree protection zones because of the very minimal to no damage they do to the tree root system.
We still even get customers that call, and they see what our trucks are doing at a job site, and they've we've had the nursery places like the landscaping companies are using us now just to plant trees. So there's different applications for these trucks, and different companies are calling all the time, and they had no idea, you know, that these trucks even exist and what they can do.